Hey, folks, we are back once again with Erika Brown of The Cricket, talking all things Manchester by the Sea and Essex. And there is a lot to talk about this week. We're coming off of the town meeting and we're going into a town election. How you doing, Erika?
Yes, both of those things are Essex, by the way.
Yeah, yeah.
Essex town meeting was last Monday, and then today, I believe, the ninth, if whatever,
Hmm.
is the election, the local election. So, very quickly, town meeting was remarkable because it was a nice, healthy showing of people. I think it was just under 250 people showed up, but it was a 28. Hear that again, 28 article warrant. It was like, it's so funny. Manchester's like very like, well, public health, we have to be very conservative. We don't want to have too much. And Essex is like, we're all in.
Yeah, yeah.
So 28 articles, but they went through them, given that it was 28 articles, they made it really quick. They went through it. They settled a lot of businesses. I mean, a lot of town business. I would say the most dramatic, quote unquote, thing was the approval of the regional school district budget, which went through. It's a $9 million budget. It's a lot of the town's, total budget, so it's worthy of a lot of consideration. And I don't know if you remember last year, this time for annual town meeting, it was when the finance committee stood up and said they would not support the school district budget, and it was a surprise. So there was a lot of mending to do, and I got to tell you, on Monday, it was like they've been through marriage counseling. The finance committee stood up with the BOS and the school district. Sarah Wolf, chairman of the school committee, was up, who's stepping down, by the way. She's not running again, but she stood up there right in front of all the people and just stood there the whole time. She ended up getting a standing ovation. Ben Buttrick from the finance committee, Guy Bradford from the BOS, they all stood up and said, we support this. It's going to be hard for the next few years. Let's get through this together. Somebody stood up and wanted a secret ballot because that's sort of the procedural drama that happened. And that always adds like 20 minutes to a town meeting because you have to do it manually with boxes, of course, because it's a secret ballot. And then after 20 minutes, well, first of all, I got to tell you, they needed 49 votes to pass for a secret ballot. They got 52. So it was just like, but they got it. Mm-hmm. And then after the secret ballot, you think that, oh yeah, the secret ballot is going to bring out all these people who secretly don't support the school district budget, right? And then in the end, the vote was 51 to 189. So they didn't gain anything. But anyway, so they did other things, like they extended the moratorium on zoning conversions from residential and agricultural to commercial. That's all because they're working on their zoning, and everything went through like butter, you know what I mean? Like easy. They also created their first ever Manchester Affordable Housing Trust. That didn't go through like butter. It did by a vote, but it did spark a lot of conversation about affordable housing and planning, because 2.7% of their official housing is officially affordable with the state, and they need to get to 10% to kind of insulate them from an unwanted 40B development. So that was a lot of discussion, and they passed their first ever affordable housing trust, which is really fantastic. Yeah. So there you go. That's it.
Wait a minute. I need to ask you. I understand that they also decided to hire a private company to remove green crabs from the town waters at a cost of $5,000. So what's going on with the green crabs?
Well, this is Peter Phippen is kind of quietly watches that thing. But yes, that's an invasive species, and it's become a problem. But this is the second year, I believe, that they passed, and I think it was 10,000 last year for trapping of proactive culling. Let's call it proactive culling of the green crab population. I know you were involved with the green crab guy in Ipswich. I forgot his name.
Yeah, I was very involved in the green crab movement with Roger Warner from Ipswich, and I'm not sure where that's all at right now. So I was really happy to see that the town of Essex is still addressing it, because it's not going away, that problem. It's really, and it's terrible for the clams, and that's what Essex is all about.
Yeah, don't they eat baby clams?
They sure do. Yeah, and they devastate baby clams. So, and I won't get into my green crab story, but anyway, good to know. Thank you, Peter Phippen, for still being on top of the green crab issue. And also,
give me some recipes for how to cook how to eat.
She makes a great. What is it? A broth you use with the green crabs, Heather? Oh, whoa! Is your name at the bottom of that book, Heather?
No, it's not actually, but I do have 2 recipes in here.
Yeah.
Did you know that we were going to talk about this and you had that at the ready? I love it.
No, I didn't actually. I have right here are all my local books. So I just had that right here. So yeah, no, it's a great cookbook. It's a great movement. They're trying to, teach people how to eat them. It's going to take a lot of eating of green crabs to solve that problem, but they're doing good work. Yeah.
I'll do my
part. For those listening on the podcast, that was the Green Crab Cookbook that you can find.
Yes,
right?
Published by the Green Crab R&D Project.
I'm gonna get it.
Yeah.
So, Erika, while we're in that town, why did we talk about today's town election in Essex?
Oh, the town election is pretty straightforward this year. There's only one contested election. We covered it last week in the paper. And as a matter of fact, it was for the planning board, and it's between Brett Prince and Matt Greco. Matt Greco is the incumbent. He's been serving on the planning board. I actually have to tell you something. I did an interview with Brett Prince for this whole piece and with Matt Greco. And Matt Greco, to his credit, he's very gracious. He never mentioned, and neither did Brett Prince, that Brett Prince is actually suing, part of a group that's suing the town. It's actually not just suing the town, suing the planning board and the ZBA over the cell phone tower kind of controversy. And he never mentioned it, and I think it's rather relevant. He did say that he would recuse himself, but it's still very relevant to his candidacy. So I'd love that you asked me about that, because I wanted to put that out there.
Awkward.
Because exactly, it's going to be very awkward if he wins.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there you go. Elections.
Yeah. There you have it with elections, and then we a couple of big things that you've done lately. A lot of forums you're covering.
Yeah, there's this is just a continuation of the election. The Manchester election is on May 17th, and we did with 1623 last week a BOS forum. It's actually the select board forum for that's one race. There's another race, a contested race, which is for school committee, and that's being addressed this week in a couple of ways. But I'll start quickly with the select board race last week between Kathy Bellata, Jeff Bodmer-Turner, and Brian Solacey. It was a really good discussion. We got into regional dispatch, by the way, spoiler alert. Jeff Bodmer-Turner, who's the chairman of the BOS currently, he actually took a position and said he supports moving dispatch to Middleton. That was kind of a big deal. But we also talked about development of the LCD, what their visions are. We talked about affordable housing. We talked about the Affordable Housing Trust development plans. We got into specifics about what they supported where in town. We called it a YIMBY, yes in my backyard section of discussion. Instead of not NIMBY, not in my backyard. So we talked about a lot of really interesting, thorny issues, but we did it in a way that was really productive and respectful. The candidates were all fantastic, and they had open dining was also a really big thing too. So I hope people watch it. It'll be on 1623 and on the Cricket. So hopefully that'll happen. And then this week is very important, actually. It's the school committee. That is a completely different set of issues. Everything I just said were issues. Everyone who would go to the school committee would probably be like, what? Zoning. But really the school committee is a really interesting race. It's 5 candidates in Manchester for just 2 seats. I was blown away by the education of these candidates. We've got, I think, 3 lawyers. One went to Johns Hopkins. I mean, they're just really smart people. So we've got lawyers. It's just really good. So here are the candidates. It's Eric Bradford. I'm going to read them off so they're in alphabetical order. I don't want to offend anybody. Eric Bradford, Kristen McLaughlin, Anna Lynn Mitchell, Erica Spencer, Nadia Wetzler. Very good candidates. We're going to do 2 things, I believe. One for sure is the PTO is going to have a public on Wednesday forum at the Manchester Essex Middle High School Library. It's called the Common Room, but it's really the library on the 2nd floor. And that's going to be sort of a moderated discussion and your way to sort of meet and greet with the candidates themselves. I'll bet that'll be incredibly well attended. Separately from that, we're trying to nail down still a forum just like the BOS forum. So more question and answer with me, but that wouldn't necessarily have an audience. It would really be about listening carefully to a series of questions and then giving everybody equal time. And we're going to do that on Zoom. So that's the plan. So it may change, but I don't think so. But there's going to be a lot of attention on the school committee next. So there you go. Gotcha. I think I just told you everything.
So why do people want to run, Eric, for school committee? Erika.
Well, there's kind of three things from my observation. One trigger, because some of the candidates are new to town. Kristen McLaughlin moved during COVID. Things like that. Anna Lynn Mitchell is relatively new. A lot of it is COVID related. You've got people were triggered by the fact that they had to do remote learning, that there was a remote learning. They watched private schools go back to, in-person learning. They were frustrated, or they wanted to, and it got them engaged with, no matter where they fell, they realized we need to be participants in this. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not like they're running to say, we hate the school system because you didn't go back in real time. It's more about saying, oh my God, that was a signal that I'm not in the picture. I'm not at the table and I want to be, which is very admirable and very interesting. You also have some people who are upset with the kind of curriculum spending thing. They bring up things like, critical race theory and things like that, which I think is not an issue up here in Massachusetts. I think that's like a thing down in Texas. They're fighting over it. I don't think we're teaching sexuality to kindergartners, but that's an issue. That kind of thing about saying, listen, I don't want the school system to be doing everything for my child. Please don't teach my child about X, Y, and Z. I can do that myself. I'm a very good parent. It's that kind of thinking. That there's a little bit of that. And then overwhelmingly across the board, everybody understands that I'm not going to say it's a dysfunction because it's not, but it's behaving dysfunctionally, which is the idea of getting a hold of costs, getting a hold of operational issues. And that's really a great discussion to have. I mean, we were talking about Essex and the Finance Committee. They understand after a year of working together that this is really complicated and there are trends that are going to be increasingly challenging. And if we want our school system to remain on the top, I think we just got named, was it 13th in the state? We were like we got Boston.com, Boston Magazine, we got really high ratings this year, really high. And we surged past other people who used to be behind us, not people, but districts. The W's, Winchester, Wellesley, all those guys. We're really a great school district. And so I think the appetite is, how can we meet these sort of operational challenges, especially in the future, and how can we ensure a really good education without cutting? A lot of people are annoyed by the arts being cut. Things like languages. Anna Lynn Mitchell is fluent. She's fluent in Cantonese, I believe, or is it Mandarin? I think she's and we have piano players and we have musicians. Like, they really care about saying that these programs aren't optional to cut them. And people are realizing that I want to get involved to have a say and to influence what's happening.
Well
Was
said.
that too much information?
No. That's everything. There's a lot going on. There's a ton going on. I do have one quick question, though, Erika. How come when names are listed in any listing, they're listed alphabetically and never in reverse alphabetical order to give some of those people some top billing that aren't used to it?
Nadia, what?
It's like the map question, right?
Has
Why
anyone
is
ever
the
answered
North
that?
Pole in the north?
Yeah.
Good question.
You mark my words. I'm going to do that.
Really? Wow. There we go.
Yeah, I'm going to do it, because in the forums, what I do is by introductions, we do go alphabetically. But then once the introductions happen, we get into the questions. I don't tell people who, I mix it up to be fair. But I love that. I'm going to do that.
Just throwing it out.
They do.
Kokoro.
I'm a C, and I'm a C. You're a B. You're an A. Oh, and she's frozen. Maybe we should say goodbye, Erika.
Yeah.
All right, we'll see you next week. Heather, you stay right there. We'll be right back.
Interested in a sponsorship? Email sponsor@1623studios.org to learn more.